Michele, the New York Times writes, quote, Mr. Schenck said he learned about the Hobby Lobby opinion because he had worked for years to exploit the court's permeability. He gained access through faith, through favors traded with gatekeepers, and through wealthy donors to his organization, abortion opponents, whom he called stealth missionaries. Look, there's the leak. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about the broader implications of the leak. If it is true, what does it say about the integrity of the court?
Well, I think it reaffirms what you've mentioned in your opening here, Alicia, which is that Americans have lost confidence in the court for reasons that would be credible. And it's worth noting that this Hobby Lobby decision was really the precursor to Dobbs. There were myself and others who were ringing an alarm bell after that case because it was so extraordinary that the Supreme Court would hold that corporations could have religious identities. It is something that was absolutely strange, never done before, and then a very specific exception carved out just with regard to contraceptions. And one other thing that was really quite curious and alarming about that decision was that the Supreme Court allowed for this conflation that contraception, like IUD, is an abortifacient. Well, that's just inconsistent with science, with medicine. It made absolutely no sense. The person who ties together Dobbs as well as Hobby Lobby, that decision, is Justice Alito. He was the author for both opinions.
Justice Alito, of course, denies leaking the decision. What consequences could he face, though, if it came out that he was, in fact, behind it?
Well, one troubling aspect that we see ourselves in, whether it's Justice Thomas and his wife, Mrs. Thomas, Ginny Thomas, or in this case, Justice Alito and his wife, who had the dinner with the Ohio couple, who then presumably shared this information with Mr. Schenck, is that there's been very little enforcement of any kind of ethics norms at our Supreme Court. And this is completely inconsistent with the standards that we even hold law students to. So the Supreme Court has been able to get a pass on ethics, where ethics are an incredibly important part of the American bar. Law students can't even become attorneys without taking a bar exam that is specifically with regard to ethics. No other branch of government within the context of the judiciary could get away with this. That includes lower court judges, attorneys, or even law students.
Justices Thomas, Justice Alito, they have something else in common, which is that they have both been going after reproductive rights and LGBTQ rights for years. Can you talk to us sort of about the dual efforts to both upend reproductive rights and the rights of LGBTQ Americans?
Well, this is a very sad time in our nation right now, especially after this horrific mass shooting that just occurred in Colorado. And these issues do tie together. In the Dobbs decision, Justice Thomas went out of his way to write a concurring opinion. And in that concurring opinion, he made clear that he's not only anti-abortion, but in his view, the court should reconsider its views on contraception and also marriage equality and the series of cases that ultimately decriminalize same-sex relationships. So we're not just talking about marriage equality, but the Supreme Court over the last quarter of a century also struck down laws that essentially made it illegal almost to be gay in the United States by criminalizing same-sex intimacy. For Justice Thomas, all of that should be on the chopping block.